Hey everyone, welcome to the InMobi webinar on how to get your app discovered. My name is Ryan Merket. I am the developer relations evangelist for InMobi. Just to let you know that this webinar is being recorded so that you guys can download this and have it archived, have an archive of it available after the webinar. So without further ado, I thank you all for joining us. I know you're all having a very busy day, so let's just go ahead and get through this and step through these slides. So a little bit about me. I joined InMobi in July 2012. I was the CEO and founder of a company called appgalleries.com. Before I launched appgalleries.com, I worked at Facebook on the developer relations team on the Facebook Connect side. Before Facebook, I co-founded a company called ping.fm that allows you to blast your status updates to all your favorite social networks. And before that, I was a senior designer and a front-end engineer at CBS Interactive, or CNET, in San Francisco. That's a picture of my beautiful wife in Napa. And yeah, so I'm 30 years old. I live in Oakland, and I'm happy to be a part of the InMobi team and happy to share my insights on app marketing and distribution. So really quickly, the agenda, we're going to go through a lot of things today. I'm going to quickly step through many of these things because, especially things like app marketing basics and empowering your users in social media. I think these are all things that we probably all know, but it's just really good to rehash those things. But then we're going to get into some more interesting things such as guerrilla marketing and app landing pages and some new features in iOS 6 that are brand new to help developers market their apps. And at the very end, we'll actually open it up for questions. And if you want us to look at your app and give you some ideas on how to do some guerrilla marketing for your app, I'm happy to take a look at some apps at the end of the webinar and then give some feedback on ways I think you could increase your distribution. So let's go ahead and get right into it. So what's new in iOS 6? So obviously one of the new things is that there's a new re-engagement tool or feature for iOS 6. You can see it right here where it says new on the app. That's something Apple put in to encourage their users to actually open the apps they download. It turns out many users don't open the apps right away, and so that's a really good engagement feature. So the big changes in iOS 6 really for developers reside around the App Store. And so one of the big things that we saw was that there was no more new releases section. So this is a big change for Apple, it really, in my opinion, it might hurt the discoverability of any new app launches. So that's a big thing to look out for. Horizontal scrolling throughout, and again, you guys have probably all seen this, so I'm just going to skip through these pretty quickly. Only 4 apps per row, so it's a little hard to skim through apps. And only the highest downloaded or grossing really show up in the featured and charts in the Genius section. And the big one on search results, it's showing in a card format. So you can see on the left right now, if you search for newsreader, you get one result back at a time. So that's really difficult for people to just kind of skim through the results. And it looks like the App Store is more algorithmically generated. So it looks like they're taking more core pieces from the Chomp acquisition and applying those into the App Store. Another thing is the Facebook like button. So this is really good for getting social discovery. So one thing to do is to actually use that like button. So in your app in your app description, putting things like like this. Hey, our app's on sale. You should like our app, kind of thing. And so I think there's ways you can actually incentivize users to like your app through the like button. So getting really creative with that like button is something you can definitely look to do in the future. Another thing in iOS 6, which is a pretty big deal, is that Apple has kind of simplified or standardized a couple of new identifiers. One of them is the advertising identifier, IFA. It's basically a UDID replacement, and it's unique per device. And in the future, all advertisers will be required to use this new identifier. Right now, a lot of SDKs and advertisers are slowly switching over to the IFA, but in the future, we can expect that everybody will be required to use this. Now, the interesting thing about IFA is that it's more like a cookie in the traditional desktop sense, meaning that users can actually delete their, they can erase or reset their IFA identifier by going into the settings and erasing all the content and settings from the phone. So this is important because users can actually reset that, and there's a little bit more element of control for privacy aspects. Another identifier they released in iOS 6 was an advertising tracking enabled. This is basically allows users to opt out of targeting based on the IFA identifier. So users can go into their settings and they can switch on and off the limit ad tracking, all advertisers will be required to basically check this variable or the variable to make sure that if it's turned on, that they can't use the IFA for tracking purposes. But they can still be used for conversion tracking, frequency capping, debugging metrics, and analytics. So there's still a lot of room to use the IFA. It just can't be used for personal, tracking an individual person. You can track your conversion on a performance campaign, but you can't track that actual person and use it to create a user profile with that person. So that's interesting. The last identifier that Apple announced was the IFV, which is identifier for vendor. This creates a unique identifier per vendor, right? So a company like Rodeo, for example, or any other app company will basically have their own vendor ID, and this vendor ID is specific to the device and specific to the vendor. And when the last app is deleted off the phone from that vendor, then the vendor is deleted. Then the vendor ID is deleted from the device as well. So that's pretty interesting. Another thing in iOS 6, which is really cool, which is I don't think is getting enough traction right now, or at least enough talk, is the Passbook. The Passbook is really, really cool. I think there's a lot of ways that people in the future will use it that no one's really thinking about right now. But some of the things that we're seeing are boarding passes, redemption cards, loyalty cards. I think those are the most obvious ways to use Passbook. But in the future, I can expect I think we can all expect to see more creative ways that people are going to use Passbook. Basically, what Passbook is allows you to download a PK pass file, which is a zip compressed archive of about 3 files, I think, of the JSON data. And within that JSON data, it kind of tells Passbook where the dynamic information lives, so that way the actual passes can stay updated dynamically. And so you can create these PK pass files and sign them all through Xcode, which is pretty cool. And there's a big potential here for brands to do CPA campaigns here, mainly because once you've created a pass, you kind of want to get it to market. And so I think in the future there'll be a way to that there'll be a big market here for people to want to distribute their passes once they're created. So this is an example, some of the examples of passes that have been created, some sample passes as well. Here you can see United having their the boarding pass directly into the Passbook. This is actually live right now, and you can actually take a look at that and how it works. But you can see in the future that people won't need these paper boarding passes. They can actually just use their phone to jump right onto the flight, and the QR code there that allows you to actually get on the flight. You just need to pull out your phone and hand it to the person. They can scan it, and you can jump right on the flight. Passes also have a way to send notifications, so that's really cool, and I think that's another way that you're going to see passes start being used more. They're almost mini apps in a way, and I think the sky's the limit really on what you can do with the passes. So let me step really quickly through the app marketing basics. This is only a slide or two. I think we're all familiar with these, but it's just really good to kind of rehash them. So this will be really quick, and then we'll get to all the good stuff. So we should know these basics, but basically icons and screenshots are very important, and especially in iOS 6, they're even way more important. Just like in the example I showed earlier of Pulse, that screenshot is really going to be, your first, the user's first look at your app. So showing a screenshot that has, that's very relevant and also has, the exact, user, the exact UI and UX the user is going to feel when they get into the app is critical. And so, obviously having, no text in your icons and having a big, screenshot that really shows the most relevant part of the app is key. Description and once new sections are actually even more important, I think, now in iOS 6. App title and keywords. Again, this is, not a lot has changed here. I think keywords have gone through a small iteration, but really it's nothing has really changed here. Ratings and reviews, we all know that we need to get ratings. I actually think, and this is my own personal opinion, I actually think ratings and reviews are actually weighted higher now in the new App Store. And so I think it's always good to get friends and family to try the app and get you some good ratings and reviews. App-a-day sites, again, this is all rehashed. Those are really important nowadays. To get your first initial launch and boost. Review sites, sending promo codes to review sites and exchange reviews, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, this is all stuff I think as marketers and developers, we definitely know this already. So empower your users. I think this is something, we're going to start stepping in a little bit more, going away from the basics, but I think this is really important. Turn your users into advocates. I think this is, something that a lot of people don't do. We all get users from, we all get users from, from the App Store. We get tons of users. How do you turn them into, advocates? How do you get that word of mouth marketing from your users? And I think the best way to do that is to, excuse me. I think the best way to do that is to, give them the tools to actually share what they're experiencing with your app. Give them badges, give them widgets, give them ways to actually post back into Facebook and Twitter that are, that aren't just, share dialogues that are, interstitials in between different sections of the game. I mean, give them a real reason to want to share their progress. And this could be really simple. This could be a link to a UI web view that basically opens up a form that has some kind of game element that encourages them to share, right? It could be, a lot of different things like that. You can send them a notification that solicits feedback from your users, right? There's a company out there, I believe it's called App Boost, that does this really well, that provides a platform for doing this. But using those notifications to actually increase the reach that your app has, I think is really key. Not just to get them to come re-engage with your app, but to get them to actually share it with their friends, right? Turn your top users into your street team. That basically means find out who your top users are. Dig into the analytics. And send them some swag, send them some stickers, send them some little things that they can do to put on their laptops to show everybody that they're, that they're an avid user of your app. And this is just a small thing you can do, but it's very high leverage. Once you find your core users and the guys who are using your game religiously, you need to take advantage of that. You need to give them the tools to really, spread the word of your game. So. Incentivize sharing. This is something that some of the bigger developers are doing nowadays, but, giving them some coins, giving them some currency or an extra item or anything that you can think of to get them to actually tweet or share the game out. With the Facebook APIs, you can actually grab the post ID of the share when it goes out, and you can check to see if that post ID is there 48 hours later or 2 weeks later, and you can give them even more items in currency for having that share there or getting a like. Hey, we noticed that your share had 3 likes. Thanks for doing that. In exchange for that, here's this awesome item for your game. Again, even Twitter API, when you send out a tweet, you get the ID of the tweet back. and you can actually go back in time and check to see, how well that tweet was received. Did it get any retweets? Did it, did anybody reply it? Things like that. And so, looking into those virality channels and actually, pulling in that data over time can really tell you a lot about, how your game is being received in the social channels. And so, really empowering your users, giving them tools to really create Facebook groups, and just encouraging them to be more active and talk about your app outside of the reviews or outside of the game itself or app itself is really important. So again, social media is we just talked about it a little bit. We're going to go right through it real quick because I think it's really important that we talk about Facebook. But really, Facebook is a huge driver, and they're really trying hard to make it easier to download apps from Facebook. And so in the future, I think using Facebook not just as a way to do paid distribution, but also very organic distribution as well. So if you don't have a fan page, I really hope everybody has a fan page. If not, you need to definitely create a fan page. And this is not a user account. A lot of people make this mistake of going to Facebook and creating a user account for their app. You really need to create a business page for your app, and encourage your users while in the app to like your fan page by putting a like button within the UX. I think is crucial because Facebook is a huge re-engagement tool, and getting your users excited about or having your users see your app again in the newsfeed is very powerful, and it's just a great way to get the users back into the app. Just some quick tips on Facebook. Post twice per day on your fan page and always end with a question. When you end with a question, it encourages more engagement. So saying things like, hey, did you get to level 6? What was the most difficult part of level 6? And having your users, engage with your fan page will increase the edge rank of those posts, and more people will see them, including their friends. So yeah, again, ending in a question is really important. Consider running contests and sweepstakes on your fan page. You can also create a page app called Download App. I haven't seen anybody do this yet, and I think it's a really good idea. But you can create what's called a static HTML app, which is basically an iframe inside of Facebook, and you can make it look like anything you want. You can actually even build a mini landing page, if you will, and an app landing page, if you will, and you can actually put a QR code or an SMS input box or anything you want directly in Facebook, and encourage people from the fan page to actually go and download the app. So I'm happy to take questions on that, and kind of, I think it even makes more sense in the future to do maybe a walkthrough on how to do this for another webinar. But I think it's a high leverage opportunity, and I think more people should really take advantage of it. Twitter contests. I think a lot of people are doing Twitter already. I think it's a really popular way to get apps downloaded. But I just want to kind of step through this real quick. But doing a retweet for a download or for promo codes, etc., I think is really powerful. Creating a special hash code just for your app and then encourage your users to tweet with it is really important as well. And I think that's a really great way to get people to just be aware of your app. And then also monitor Twitter for advocates and complaints. I know this sounds redundant, and probably you've heard it a million times, but a lot of people don't do it. And so I think having somebody that's dedicated to social media, even if it's the CEO or the founder of the app company, somebody needs to be listening, and somebody needs to be responding to those. And then just around the same thing, but monitoring the competing apps as well. I mean, looking at what they're complaining about, what their struggles are, and figuring out how you can go to where the puck is going to be instead of going to the puck where it's currently at, right? And so you can kind of see, once you monitor your competition, you can kind of see where their struggles are and where you can kind of fill the gap and be a better solution. And most of all, just communicate with your users, right? Have a way to talk to them. It's Twitter, Facebook, forums, IRC, whatever it might be. Create a channel where you can actually communicate with your target users and just have open and honest dialogue with them. And I think it's the best way to actually build a brand in this sea of apps where there's, it seems like there's a lot of competition. All right, so let's talk a little bit about app landing pages. There are a lot of examples of really bad app landing pages, and there's not a lot of examples of good landing pages. And so I'm just going to kind of go through and give you my thoughts on landing pages and show some example ones, and also give you some ideas on how you can get your own landing page created for really cheap. So let's step through this. Actually, let's take a look back. We'll step through it. So this is very important when you're creating a landing page. Look, a lot of the discovery still happens on desktop, right? I mean, a lot of people are still working 9-to-5 jobs at their desk in a cubicle, and they're seeing apps on Mashable, or they're seeing apps in the news or on Facebook or Twitter, and when they click to actually go find that app, they're not going to be on mobile. They're not going to be in iTunes. They're not going to be where you would hope they would be. They're going to be on desktop. So you have to make sure that when you're building your app landing page, that for desktop users, that the call to action is very large, and you need to have a way for them to make the transition from their desktop to the phone. So how do you get somebody to actually download an app from the desktop? Well, my last startup, we actually had a solution called Send to Phone, and it included SMS and QR. And you would be amazed about how many people actually send the app to their phone via SMS or just take do the QR part of it. And so I think these are really simple solutions. And what I've seen a lot in developer forums is people don't know how to do an SMS. It's actually really simple. If you use the Twilio.com API, you can actually, for I think less than a penny, you can send an SMS. You can send an SMS link to somebody for less than a penny, and I think it's well worth it. And so there's a couple companies out there that are doing this really well. We'll show some examples in a minute. But the link to the App Store, the Google Play, I would not put that as prominent. I would definitely concentrate more on SMS and QR, especially for the Apple App Store. There's a lot of drop-off when you send people to iTunes, especially on desktop, because most people don't have a way to sync their downloads from iTunes to their phone. The users just haven't really adopted that as well as we hoped. And so, I would really emphasize on doing an SMS and QR code over sending a direct link to the Apple App Store. I mean, how many times have you clicked the link to the Apple App Store, opened and it popped up iTunes, and you got annoyed, you didn't know why iTunes was opening, and then you just grab your phone, you open up the App Store, and then you actually go download the app through the App Store. Well, normally when I see the iTunes pop up, I immediately get frustrated and forget what I was doing and close the window and continue on to what I was originally probably looking for on the web when I found the app. There's a big drop-off on opening up iTunes, so I would, again, SMS or QR code. Now, if the user is already on a mobile, having a well-designed mobile landing page is really important. Having some screenshots, and also a realism shot, meaning like a hand holding a phone, or with a screenshot of what they're about to see, et cetera, et cetera. And then in iOS 6, there's a new thing called Smart App Banner, and we're going to jump right into that right after app landing pages. So I'll talk about that in a second. But here's an example of a really, really, really good app landing page. This is for Pick2. You can see right away this is for desktop, and what you see, the first thing you see in the top right is a quick elevator pitch, a tagline, if you will: reply and get replies, talk through photos. So you know exactly what it's going to be. It's going to be a social network around photos, and that's cool. So then the big call to action, what we call the big green button, says get the free app. So when you click the big green button, immediately what you see is a pop-up that pops up, and it says enter your phone number. And once you put your phone number in, and it's most countries, because Twilio does support, I think, 60-something countries, then you just put your phone number in. It sends you a link through SMS. Once you click that on your phone, then the App Store will open on your phone, and you can download the app. And so this reduces the friction of actually iTunes popping on the desktop, and it really just sends the link direct to the phone. So I think this is a really, really good example of a app landing page, and I think it they de-emphasize the App Store, and they really emphasize the phone number because like I said, there's less friction going straight to SMS. And there's a number of tutorials on how to build this with Twilio. And I would look into that as well. And I think app.net is a service provider that actually does this pretty well, but the future of that product is in question since they've pivoted towards a Twitter social network-like site. So that's why it's not in the presentation, but if they do continue the product, I would definitely look into that for building an app landing page, because they do offer a lot of these services. You just have to pay for them. So that's one option. All right, so let's get into smart app banners. Smart app banners is a brand new way to basically have your apps on mobile web. So if somebody on Safari on mobile or Chrome on Android goes to your website, audiobooks.app.com, for example, instead of a link direct to the App Store, you can actually put what's called a smart app banner. And you can actually see it right here. It's at the top of the web page, and it's rendered actually in Safari instead of it's rendered in Safari, and it's not in the actual DOM or the HTML of the page. It's a really simple way to implement a link to the App Store. And what's really, really interesting about smart app banners, and this is kind of the first tracking we've had from mobile web to the App Store. In the past, Apple has never really released the refers of the traffic you're getting to your app in the App Store. But now with smart app banners, you can actually pass some variables or data back to the app on first launch. And so you can imagine being able to pass back which blogs, which news outlets, which PR, which campaign, et cetera, are actually getting you installs. So this is pretty cool. So you can track. What I recommend now for the future for app marketing is any kind of mobile web campaigns or any kind of PR or any kind of outbound facing marketing. I really recommend that you point to a URL with a smart app banner, because you'll be able to track which one of these channels are actually bringing you installs. This has not been possible before without using some type of tracking solution. And so this is an example graph, but you can kind of break it down by, okay, I'm getting this many installs and page views and clicks from these different channels, right? Search, PR, ad network 1, ad network 2, and you can really break down where you're getting the most traction and ROI from mobile web campaigns, which is pretty interesting and pretty awesome. So this is all done through smart app banners, and I would encourage you to go out and Google that. And I also have a link here at the bottom by David Smith. He did a blog post in September about how to implement smart app banners. It's actually really, really easy and like one line of HTML code. So it's definitely something I think everybody should be doing now. So the next section is all about data, and I think this kind of plays along with the smart app banners. But once you start collecting this data, how do you use that, and how do you actually benefit from it? So you really want to know where your loyal users are coming from. So smart app banners and Google Analytics for Android. Once you know where your loyal users are coming from, optimize for those channels. So if you're getting a lot of loyal users from, let's say, like an organic Google search for a query, for a free audiobook or something like that, or whatever that query might be, using the past screenshot as an example, you want to start really optimizing for that, right? So let's say 5% of your users are coming from search, organic search on Google, and of those 5%, 90% are all coming from one keyword. Then really optimize your app landing pages and optimize your PR and marketing to take advantage of those keywords in everything you do, from blog posts to press releases to Facebook fan page posts to Google Plus posts to Twitter, etc. Find out what it is that's actually driving these loyal users, and there's a lot of tools that you can use to actually figure out who your loyal users are. And once you find those out, then really optimize to that. And you can also tag all your campaigns. So in Google Analytics, tagging your campaign and using bit.ly links to reach the right campaign is really important. So you can actually kind of dig down and figure out which one of your campaigns is really providing the most value. If you're not using Google Analytics on your landing page, I really hope you're doing that. That'll allow you to really see where your traffic's coming from. Optimizely.com is a great A/B test platform. It's actually drag and drop, so your marketing team or whoever's handling your website can actually do drag and drop A/B tests by moving the assets of the page around just by simply dragging and dropping them. So if you want to move the logo to the right side and move the call to action up higher and try a different tagline and create 4 or 5 different variations, then that's really simple to do with Optimizely. And the way you actually implement it on the page is you just paste a JavaScript into the header. JavaScript includes tag as the header, and from that point on, it'll start running the variations. And over time, you can see which one will outperform and be able to change your page to get more conversions, etc. So it's a really good site to use for drag and drop A/B tests. I've used it numerous times for different projects, and it's just a really beautiful tool. If you don't have a dashboard, these are critical for startups. We had numerous dashboards at Facebook. We have numerous dashboards at my last startup. Even at InMobi, there's tons of dashboards we use every day. And if you're a small team and you really just don't have the time to build a dashboard, I would really check out Leftronic.com. They're a YC company that's created a way to basically build your own dashboards. You can plug in different RSS feeds, XML feeds, JSON feeds, and there's a number of pre-made modules, I guess, as well. You can plug into your dashboard, such as Twitter feed, Google Analytics, Mixpanel, you name it. You can basically drop the data in and create visualizations on a dashboard that you can run full screen in your office or in your living room, like I do, just to check on the different data analytics on a real-time basis. So this is a really good solution for people who are a small team that need a dashboard but don't have the time to really build a full-fledged one. So let's get into some guerrilla marketing. This is I love guerrilla marketing. I actually in my first startup in 2009, I did some guerrilla marketing that worked really well. In San Francisco, there was this big PR event that was happening because somebody had put a webcam outside their window in a very bad part of San Francisco, and it just happened to be posted right on this corner in the Tenderloin in San Francisco. And at the time, it was getting a lot of news and press because of the things that he was capturing on his video camera. And it was a 24-hour feed of his neighborhood, and it was on Fox News, CNN, you name it. It was getting picked up everywhere. And so when I had just launched the startup, Ping.fm, and so what I did is I went down to the street corner in the bad part of San Francisco, and with a sidewalk chalk in the crosswalk, I put Ping.fm really big in the crosswalk. And I had about 6 friends with me all doing it at the same time. And it was so funny because I think there was like 10,000 people on the actual live stream at the time watching this neighborhood, trying to see, all the different things that were happening, all the crimes that were being committed. And there was this team of, startup kids out there with hoodies on, and we're putting in our URL in the crosswalk so the camera saw it perfectly. So that's an example of guerrilla marketing and taking advantage of, the PR and things that are happening around you. And so, without further ado, I'll jump right into this. But what we're seeing now is a laser artist that basically uses a tablet and can draw whatever he wants on the tablet, and he can basically project it onto a building. So there's no vandalism. It's just a really quick message you can throw up on a building for the whole city to see. So I thought it was a really cool example. So let's define what really guerrilla marketing is before we kind of jump into some examples, because I think it's important to really understand what it is first. So guerrilla marketing is really just taking advantage of PR. I mean, at the end of the day, most of these guerrilla marketing campaigns only lasted for 5 minutes to an hour. And really what was important about the campaign was that it was captured in a way that could be easily distributed. And it nailed the target market of the company that was doing the guerrilla marketing. So I think the first thing you need to do is define who your target market is, who are the demographics, what region, what socioeconomic level. Once you really define who the target market is, start researching different events, conferences, public gatherings where that target market will come together. And then you want to build for virality. So like I said, guerrilla is all about post-event PR. So how do you do an event, capture it in a way that you can easily put it on YouTube or send it to TechCrunch or send it to VentureBeat or send it to Inside Mobile Apps and really get the PR spin on it, or the PR lift on it, I should say. So make sure you spend equal time on the recording and the capturing of the actual campaign than you would planning the campaign. So that means, having 1 or 2 people with video cameras and cameras to actually capture the campaign, and then you actually edit and compile the campaign in a way that's fun, that's memorable, and marketable. So I think it might be interesting just to kind of see these, and I can kind of talk about what that means. And when you're planning your campaign, really think outside of the box. Think of the headline you want before you actually do the campaign. Think of the headlines you want on the PR. And once you think of the headlines, then start building out towards those headlines. And I think that's the way to do it. So this is an example of a guerrilla marketing for a company called Triple. What they were trying to do was raise some investment money for their application. And so when YC Combinator, which is a very large angel incubator in Silicon Valley, had their pitch day, I think over 200 or 300 angel investors showed up for the pitch day. So they went through and put fake parking tickets on all the investors' cars that said you had been subjected to make a big investment decision based on a 2-minute demo pitch. And they invited them to come to the Computer History Museum and hear them pitch. And they included the QR code and different ways to do that. So I think this is really interesting. I mean, it really goes back to figuring out who your target market is, where are they going to be at one given time, and then execute the campaign, and then take a picture of the parking ticket, and then send it out to VentureBeat and TechCrunch and get even more PR about your marketing campaign. So it's a really, really creative idea. The next one is Nutricia. This is an app. It's basically a way for dads to understand what's happening during a pregnancy. And so the way that their guerrilla marketing, the way they did this is that they basically went to shopping malls and had a fake pregnancy suit where they basically walked up to dads and people, couples, different fathers and expecting fathers, and said, "Hey, we'd love for you to, experience our app. And to do that, you have to wear this suit." And so they basically had these guys in shopping malls wearing pregnancy suits and trying out the apps at the same time. But again, they probably did this for a couple hours, but the PR they received on the creativity of the campaign was endless. They were in multiple outlets, Trend Hunter, TechCrunch, for doing this really interesting marketing campaign. But really, what really sets this campaign from just doing street hustling, sets it apart from just doing street hustling, is actually, a well-developed video on what they did, how they did it, and actually edit it with great music. And that's what actually got people to post about it, was the way they actually presented the campaign. So it's less the campaign and more how you can actually get it out to the PR folks. This is an example of a guerrilla campaign, less guerrilla, more creative marketing. But this is for Uber, which does limo/luxury car service on demand with an iPhone and Android app. This was at South by Southwest. They actually paid pedicabs to put their logo on the pedicabs, and I believe, I'm not sure, but I think they did something where they actually tweeted out, if you tweeted out the driver's name, then he got an extra tip or something like that. But the idea was to create, to go to where their target market was, which was at South by Southwest, the conference, and really go after the early adopters and show them, hey, we do luxury car service, and also we do free pedicabs in South by Southwest. So it was a good way just to get their name out there, and I think it was it really did well for them because it was picked up in a lot of different places. One way you can get some really cheap marketing and, actually get some reviews and things like that is to use a site called Fiverr. Fiverr.com is a way to get people to do different tasks and different things for $5, right? Everything costs $5. So this is some guy. He says, "I will give you a shout out or live on the air on the DAS Process podcast hosted by Mackenzie Aston for $5." So for $5, you can give him a shout out your app, and with a really creative Bitly URL, you can get a lot of conversions here. So saying download our app at bitly.com/app-name, for example. And having him shout you out is for $5, I think, is a really great way to kind of drive some installs really quickly. Another thing on Fiverr, which you can do, is you can actually get people to download your iPhone app or Android app, and they'll give you a truthful and positive review. Well, I don't know about positive, like this guy's saying positive, but they'll give you a truthful review on the App Store for $5. So for $5, you can get someone to come try out your app and give you a little bit of QA testing, and also give you a review. So I think this is a good way to get the first 5 or 10 reviews, but also get people to give you some real feedback on your app. So there's tons and tons of these offers on Fiverr right now, and you can also do some really crazy stuff. Like people will actually wrap your app or your game into a hip hop rap or something like that. You can turn that into a YouTube video and try to get some virality out of that. You can get people to use take a Sharpie and write your app name on their forehead and walk around town and videotape it for $5. I mean, there's just out of this world kind of things that people on Fiverr are willing to do for $5, and you can really do some really creative marketing and guerrilla stuff with that as well. So I would definitely check that out. Here's an example of a guerrilla campaign that was done by a startup called WePay. WePay basically took, I think it was 300-pound blocks of ice and froze a bunch of money into it by putting the blocks of ice together overnight and let them freeze together. And they had a message in the ice that said, "PayPal freezes your accounts. Unfreeze your money." And they took this block of ice and they dumped it right on the front of PayPal's developer conference in Moscone Center in downtown San Francisco. Now, this campaign didn't last very long. It lasted about, I think, 5 or 10 minutes before the security guards came out and basically, got rid of it somehow. I'm not sure how they did that. It was a very large block of ice. But what they did do well was they did an actual video and had photographers out there taking photos of them doing this campaign. And, of course, they sent that to TechCrunch and sent that to a bunch of different PR outlets, and that's where the real campaign buzz came from, was from the PR that they actually did this. And so for a small amount of money, they were able to basically create a huge buzz and ride the PayPal buzz from their conference and basically establish themselves as a PayPal competitor, albeit a very small competitor at the time, but now they are much larger and doing quite well. So this is a campaign that Zynga did, a guerrilla campaign. They did this in New York and San Francisco. This was for the Zombies Swipeout game that they were launching. And basically what they did was they had a bunch of Zynga employees and I think some paid actors to dress up as zombies and give out blood popsicles, blood red, but I think strawberry or cherry flavored or something. And basically we walked the streets of San Francisco and New York and basically handed out these popsicles as zombies. And this got picked up all over the place. I actually ran into them in downtown San Francisco on my way to lunch. I was walking down the sidewalk, and here comes this group of zombies. And I actually took pictures of it, posted it to Facebook and Twitter. And so you can see how this kind of marketing really just spreads virally. And this isn't, an expensive campaign to do. This is some face paint and some, old clothes they ripped up and threw some, fake blood on it. And, probably paid a little bit for the ice cream truck, but, or the ice cream wagon or whatever that thing is. But again, it's not a very expensive campaign, and, they really rode the PR afterwards And it's really just creating something that's out of the box and something you can capture easily and really turn into a really cool story. So that's it for the guerrilla marketing examples. I think we'll go right into the Q&A and go right into open dialogue. If you guys have any apps you want me to check out and give you some ideas on how you can market it, happy to do that as well. So do we have any questions, or is there any apps you want me to check out? There's a questions dialogue in your webinar control panel there. Hey, Andy, do we have any questions, or is it
Yeah, can you hear me, Ryan? Yeah, we had a
Yep,
question about if the app of the day sites, if those are still okay given Apple's new guidelines in the 2.25 release.
Yeah, app a day. So that's interesting. The new policy that Apple came out with, I think we're all kind of waiting to see the first rejection. Right now the policies were a bit vague, but they were also done at a time when a new API was introduced that allows you to basically show any iTunes object in app without sending them to the App Store. And so it seems like the policy was just around this new API, and that if you're going to show, some type of Apple object or iTunes object in your app, then you need to use the new API, and you can't recreate the App Store look and feel. So that's what I think it was for. But again, it's pretty vague, and we're just all kind of waiting to see who gets the rejection first, and seeing how that's going to affect the market. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, if you have follow-up questions, just pop those into the question area. Another question was, I'm launching a new app that has no prior users. What is the best way to get genuine users? I'm guessing this is including past the tactics you talked about tonight.
Yeah. So you're launching an app, and you need to get some real loyal users on your initial launch. It really helps us to know what kind of app you're launching and what categories you're going after. But there's a number of ways that you can do this. We talked a lot about social media, doing some Twitter campaigns. Also, everybody does the friends and family emails when you first launch. That's probably talked about a lot. But what people are not doing, what they should be doing with those emails, is that they should be sending them to some type of landing page, so that when your friends and family actually decide to go download the app, there's a viral component built into that download, right? So if you send them to myapp.com/friends and family email, have that be a landing page that says, hey, thanks for downloading my app. I'd really love for you to beta test it. Before you can beta test it, though, I'm just asking that people share it within Facebook and Twitter to help me get the word of mouth out. And you can actually, decide if you want to disable the download button until they click the share or like button. I mean, that's a little bit, spammy, but at the same time, that early traction is very important. And if, friends and family really do, want to help you out, then a share shouldn't be too hard of an ask. So I think that's important as well. But looking at the different ways people are doing marketing on app launches, and then how do you build in some type of viral component into that, I think is the next wave of app launches.
Great. And then when you're talking about the SMS stuff with Twilio, there were some questions about that's probably only for iPads, right? And are there any specific tactics for iPads? Should the call to action be an email? How would you address that?
Yeah, so for iPads, that's a great question. iPads do have QR readers as well, so I would encourage you, if it's an iPad game, to emphasize the QR over SMS for obvious reasons, and email as well. So yeah, so for iPad games and apps, I would definitely look at QR and also email in exchange for SMS. On our feature at appgalleries.com, we actually, if you put an email address or a phone number in the same input box, we just look at that and say, okay, if it's an email, we're going to fire off an email. If it's a phone number, we're going to fire off an SMS. So your input box can actually be, a dual role and say, enter in your email for iPad or enter in your phone number for smartphone. And that's just an easy way to kind of segment those two channels.
Great. We've got a couple people asking if you can check out their app. Do you want to do that now or do a review later that we include in the handouts? How would you like to handle that?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, I can probably do one, and then if I can follow up in a blog post maybe for the other two.
All right. How about we do? There's an app called Tractor Pull that Cindy submitted.
Tractor Pull. Cool. So I think is this for iOS or Android?
On Android. So you need an iOS one?
Oh no, that's fine. I just
Okay.
pull it up. Cool. So it seems like this actually looks really fun. This is a game that is I'm actually in Texas right now, so this kind of reminds me of where I'm at. I actually grew up in Texas, and I remember going to the state fairs and county fairs and seeing and watching the tractor pull. So this seems like it would be really big in non-city or outskirts kind of areas. Getting into, like I said, the county fairs and local fairs, state fairs, and being able to do some guerrilla marketing at the actual tractor pulls, I think would be really fun to do. And I think, again, all you need to do is one campaign and shoot and have somebody kind of film this campaign and push it out to the relevant PR channels. But this seems like a game that would be really popular. Oh wow, this is really fun actually. So I think this is a game where once you kind of find your core users and loyal users, these are people who probably are very familiar with tractor pulls, and they probably do have larger vehicles, probably living in towns that are 10,000 to 100,000 people, and there's a big word of mouth opportunity here. Once they're kind of addicted to the game, sending them some bumper stickers for their cars, giving them ways to having when people are riding in their car, having I'm a loyal tractor pull user, kind of hanging from the dashboard kind of thing. Hanging from the rearview mirror, kind of like those graduation ribbons people put when they graduate high school. Maybe making one of those for your users to kind of put in their one of those for your loyal users to put in the rearview mirrors. Things like that I think will increase word of mouth, but also again, it's not about sending 10,000 ribbons out. It's about sending 500 ribbons out and then doing a PR push around this creative marketing campaign and getting it out to the advertising and marketing blogs and websites to show how creative and things you're doing with your marketing, right? And that would be my big thing, is just trying to figure out who the loyal users are in this and get them and do a creative campaign around those loyal users. Yeah, it looks like a really, really fun game, and I'll definitely check it out.
Yeah, we've got a whole bunch of other requests for other apps, so do you want to handle those offline?
Let's see here. I think people are enjoying it, so I'll do one more.
Okay, let's see. How about one called LTV Calc? CALC, LTV Calc, sent by Alf.
Okay. Is it Android or iPhone?
Let's see. Doesn't say.
Okay. Aha, I think I found it here. Aha, all right, so if I can find let's open up the YouTube video. Yep, Alf, there we go, cool. So let's open up.
Oh yeah, this is Alf. I'm gonna.
Cool, so this looks like a lifetime value calculator. This looks like for a tool for small businesses to use to kind of figure out what their lifetime value of their customers are. This is actually a kind of a developer-to-developer app, which is pretty cool. You don't see a lot of these out there, and it's not just developers. I'm sure you can do this for any small business or any medium-sized business. But I think, the key here is to be really active where developers are hanging out. I think, just for one customer segment is developers, I think, and there's a whole another customer segment that we can get into, but I'm going to stick with developers because I think that's an easy win here for this app. Going into places like iPhoneDevSDK.com where a lot of developers hang out, and being really active in the community and not being so spammy, I think is really important here, and helping other developers with their projects. Maybe an hour a day spending in the forums and just being active and communicating with people. And in your signature of your profile on the forum, having a link to the LTV calc would be. It's actually a really good way to get some loyal users, and also just kind of establish yourself within the community. There's also, just going to, let's see. There's also meetups, developer conferences, things like that. Those are more obvious. I think, a guerrilla marketing campaign around this could get really, really creative. A lot of people don't know what their LTV is of their users. And so, actually going to a small business conference and doing some kind of outlandish street type of guerrilla marketing, where, you're, making a big statement of, if you don't know the value of your users, then, how can you be a real business? And, kind of around that play, I think, thinking of the headlines you could do around this, always think of the headlines first. So, small, a headline you could do here is a, small startup convinces, or tells 5,000 small businesses that their businesses are, not valuable unless they download LTV Calc or something like that. So I think this is a little bit more of a difficult one, but getting really creative, writing the headline first and then going to where the developers and small businesses are, and creating some type of really outlandish guerrilla marketing that you can capture well and push out to the press, I think would do really well.
Fantastic. I know we're at about 1 hour. We'll keep doing some Q&A, but if folks have to jump off, that's fine. We will be sending out a recording and a transcript for this session. Another question folks had was, any tips on getting the featured placement inside the App Store itself with Apple or Google, getting noticed by the editorial team?
Yeah, I mean, there's not really a form you can fill out to be featured. It's really, really about, creating connections with the editorial team. I know that's not what you want to hear. I know there's not like a magic bullet to, get featured. Really what I would encourage you to do is to go to the Apple Developer Conference, and really connect with the Apple employees. I know that sounds like you probably heard that a million times, but it really does work. I've launched 2 startups, sold 2 startups, and honestly, the only way I was able to do that was to go to the conferences and meet people. I wouldn't have got a job at Facebook if I didn't go to the F8 Facebook Developers Conference and meet the people at Facebook and actually get a job offer a couple weeks later. So it's really just going out, jumping on a plane, going to San Francisco for the conference, spending a little bit of money, and just really connecting with everybody and anybody who works at Apple and showing off your app to them in person. I know that's doesn't seem like great advice, but it really is the best advice I can give, and I can tell you that's worked for me on numerous occasions. So just going out and being active and in person, is really, really helpful.
Great. How about getting reviewed by different app sites? Are there any tips for that? I'm guessing you can submit your apps, but any other tactics for getting noticed by app review sites?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the app review sites are paid. It's unfortunate, but a lot of the app review sites really cater to people who are willing to pay them the most money, and that's just kind of based on what I've seen. AppGalleries.com actually did we actually have a white label solution to allow anybody to basically run their own app store or app review site. And so through my market research, I realized that these app review sites, and especially us, we were receiving probably 20 to 40 emails a day from developers wanting us to review their apps. And really what got me to look at the app more than anything was an email that seemed personalized. So if you actually do the research and figure out, okay, who's probably going to read this email, even on a first or last name basis, kind of starting off your email with that first name is really helpful. You know, an email that's not canned or doesn't seem canned usually gets read. Emails that look canned, feel canned, have no personalization, I usually just skip right over them. It feels too spammy. It feels like they didn't try hard enough. So my best suggestion is, instead of going and getting the list of 100 app review sites and creating one spammed or canned email and spamming it out to all 100 app review sites, what I would do is really find the 5 or 6 app review sites you really want to be on that are more targeted toward your target demographic, and creating a very personalized email for each one of those app review sites with screenshots that you attach directly to the email. And really, at the end of the day, it's creating something that's personalized, and also making the job of the reviewer as easy as possible. So that means, you know, coming up with some sample review material and potentially copy and paste or reuse in a way that's more suitable for their site. Putting the screenshots into a zip file that they can put, you know, directly on their computer and be ready to go right in the blog post / review post. You know, giving them you know, different tools and the different, you know, things they need to actually get the review done much quicker, because these guys are pushing out, you know, 5 to 10 reviews a day. They need to be able to kind of crank these things out. And so if you put your images over on Flickr, and you do your YouTube over on YouTube, and then you kind of put, you know, an email together with like 10 different links on where to find information, that makes their job much harder, in the actual probability of you getting an app review much lower. So really, it's find the 5 or 6 guys you want to target, and then make that email personalized, and then make it as easy as possible for the reviewer to write the review in the shortest amount of time possible. And that's really going to increase your chances of getting your app reviewed.
Great. Another question was, is there a way to know what path people go through in the App Store and how they're downloading the site? Like it's through a keyword search or a direct link or through browsing categories?
There's not a way to do that. Unfortunately, Apple has not made a way to actually, you know, either, you know, an API to download that data, or even a way in Connect to actually see that information. So no, that's not possible right now.
Great. Another question was, how much text is good for your web landing page? And should you redirect to the app stores directly, or have something in the middle, like an interstitial? This is about, you know, optimizing your web landing page.
Yeah, so I think most people don't read on the internet. I think that's a common. I think that's a data point we all know about today. You know, unfortunately, even a tagline with, you know, 8 to 10 words is probably not going to be read. We're a visual creature, and so I think the least amount of text possible is good. You can notice on sites like Pass.com and the example I showed, Pick2, there's very little text. It's all about the product screenshots and the realism and the realism photography. And so you don't need, you know, on Pass they have this really beautiful, you know, video that runs in the background. I mean, you don't need anything that fancy. All you really need is, you know, a stock photo of someone holding an Android phone or an iPhone, and you doing some Photoshop and putting a screenshot directly in that phone, and having that as your background image, and having a large call to action right there next to it, and then maybe a text to go to the App Store underneath it. So, I mean, if you took the Pick2 example in my deck and just kind of recreate that for your app, I mean, obviously don't steal the assets, but just, you know, look at how they kind of wireframe that together. I think that's a perfect example of an app landing page. It's a big green button users can't miss. But, you know, on your second part of should you have an interstitial, I'm a firm believer that you know, I'm a firm believer in minimizing the friction of an app download. So if the user clicks the button that says Get App Now, or it does an SMS or something to their phone, at that point they've kind of made up their mind that they really want to download the app. And so if you put anything in front of them before they can get to the App Store, I think you're just going to see a huge drop off. Mainly just because that, you know, they're a little bit annoyed because they've kind of made this decision that they're going to get this app. So, you know, come hell or high water, they want to get there. And so I think that's what you need to do. So yeah, I think interstitials are just not a good idea. So.
Another question we had was about going for a blockbuster app like Rovio's, or trying something a bit more slow and steady, or which approach to go with. I think I remember reading that with Rovio, they tried Angry Birds game. That was like their 50th try at a game. So give a little intelligence on the blockbuster versus the sort of slow and steady approach.
Yeah, I think it really depends on the team. I've talked to a lot of developers, a lot of small startups that are getting into games who have not been in games in the past. And that approach, if you've never done a real either desktop or console game, and you're trying your first game on mobile, I think the slow and steady with multiple iterations is the way to go. If you have an experienced team who's done any kind of gaming in the past, whether it be social gaming, console gaming, desktop gaming, I think you're probably more prepared to go for the large release. But I think it really just depends on the experience level of the team. One company that's coming to mind is Rumpus, which is a small startup in San Francisco. They released some smaller games, just kind of their first release, MVP, kind of learning how to build games, because they didn't really have a lot of mobile experience in the past. But now their third game that's coming out is just amazing, and it's just it's a testament to the kind of process of release, iterate, learn, release, iterate, learn, and then go for the big one. But if you're going for if you have mobile or if you have gaming experience, then I think it does make sense to kind of go for the big shot, for a big launch and a big game first. So it really just depends.
Excellent. Most of the other questions are about app reviews, so I don't know if you want to handle those now or sign off the call. Your choice.
Yeah, I think we'll sign off, guys. We'll do a webinar again in a month, and maybe we'll just do straight app marketing ideas, and I think that would be a really fun one to do. And I can bring in some guest some guest panelists as well, and we can kind of go through each one of those and have a good time just thinking of different ways we can market apps. So if you were on this call and I didn't get to your app today, if you want to shoot me an email at Ryan@InMobi, and we'll kind of put those into a spreadsheet, and we'll try to get to those first on that webinar. But I thank all of you for taking some time out of your day to listen to some app marketing ideas. I'm at Merket on Twitter, at my last name, and again, there's my email, Ryan@InMobi. Happy to help you guys get your app discovered and get some distribution. So again, thanks again for joining us, and until next time.